Critics say James Franklin can't win the big one at Penn State, and he lost to Ohio State and Oregon this year. Up next, another big one in the playoffs, SMU. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Penn State and the big one. Again, can they win? Plus, we'll talk about the other two Big Ten teams in action this weekend, Indiana and Ohio State, with our final thoughts on that, and our pigskin picks on the three Big Ten games in the playoffs coming up. Look, if you're a lifelong Penn State fan, you know the drill all too well. If you're new to the Nittany Lions, here's the elevator pitch. Penn State is one of the best programs in the country, historically and currently. James Franklin is a very good coach and a very good recruiter. In 11 years under Franklin, Penn State has won almost every game that they were supposed to win. And they have lost a handful of games that they were supposed to lose when they played better teams. Usually, now this is oversimplifying things, but Penn State can almost always win 10 games a year. But while they were in the same division as Michigan and Ohio State up until last season, they would always lose to Michigan and Ohio State and finish the regular season 10-2. Again, that's an oversimplification of how things have gone, but basically it paints the picture at Penn State. James Franklin has a reputation where he cannot win the big one. Can't win the big game. Whether that's fair or unfair, it's what we talk about. And even when Franklin and Penn State won the Big Ten back in 2016, they lost the Rose Bowl to USC that year, 52-49. That's a lot of points, by the way. But it was a great game, so we let it go. But let's stick to 2024 and what we expect and what's going to be happening here. Penn State dutifully beat everybody on their schedule that they were supposed to beat. Their first ranked win came against 20th ranked Illinois. And the Nittany Lions were ranked 4th at the time. They gave up an opening drive touchdown to the Illini, and then it was Penn State the rest of the way on their way to a 20-7 victory. Actually, it was their best defensive effort of the year. It was very impressive. But it was a home game, and they were expected to win, and they did. Okay. I mean, they should get some credit for that, right? They had an overtime scare at USC. They came back to win that. Wisconsin gave them trouble on the road in the first half, but they came back to win that, and that was with backup Bo Pribula, who was in for the injured Drew Aller in the second half. And Pribula, we talked about him this whole week because he just portaled out of Happy Valley right in the middle of a playoff push here. Untimely string of events that we talked about in detail this week on Locked On Big Ten. I always encourage you to go back, catch up, see what other podcasts we did this week if you are new to us. You know, they had another scare at Minnesota. But they won by 1 point on the road. Close or not, Penn State won every one of those games that they were supposed to this year. But they still did not beat Ohio State at home when Penn State was ranked higher than Ohio State. Ohio State came in as number 6. They didn't win the big one. And at the end, ranked 4th in the country at the time, they played number 1 Oregon for the Big Ten title, the big game, and they lost. They didn't win the big one. Even though they didn't have to play Michigan this year, and too bad because Michigan was a hot mess, they still lost 2 big games this year on their way to a very impressive 11-2 record. Here we go again. This is what Penn State is. This is what Penn State does. So another one is coming up. Another big one is coming up. It's a playoff game Saturday afternoon. Now, typically, a game versus SMU wouldn't be mentioned as a big one in the same breath as Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon. But 2024 is different. SMU is different. They're good. This is a playoff game at home. This is a big one. Okay. So what do we know about SMU? Big Ten people don't follow SMU football that much. Look, we remember back when we were younger, they used to be good back in the days of Eric Dickerson. Their boosters cheated. SMU received the death penalty and disappeared for a while. We all remember that if you're of age. But then they came back and they've slowly been trying to build their program back. And then all of a sudden, all these changes in college football were happening, and SMU is desperate to find a home and remain relevant during this crazy conference realignment team grab. So they begged the ACC to let them join. Geographically, it didn't make much sense. But then again, we're the Big Ten. Who are we to judge on geography? Still, SMU offered to come to the ACC for no grant of rights money. They say, hey, well, we'll come for free. We just need to be somewhere. We can pay us later. We don't want any money up front. We don't want in on that media rights deal that you have, which is good because that's a touchy subject in the ACC these days. SMU just needed a home. So I don't think many took their football program seriously, but lo and behold, if it weren't for a last-second field goal by Clemson in the ACC championship game, the SMU Mustangs would have been the ACC champion in their first year in the league. Wow. Talk about arriving. Look, they have talent. And, of course, the Penn State football team and the fan base, they better be aware of it. Okay, here's what's going to go down. SMU has a quarterback named Kevin Jennings. He's only 20 years old, but he's already played 3 years. He completes 66% of his passes. He threw for over 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. And he's also a dual threat. He ran for 379 yards and 5 more touchdowns. Penn State's defense better be aware of where he is. Wide receiver, kind of like Penn State. They don't have a wide receiver that is head and shoulders above everybody else. They kind of do the wide receiver by committee thing. Their running back, Rashard Smith, he's good. He rushed for 1,270 yards and 14 touchdowns and averaged almost 6 yards a carry. They'll have to focus on him. On defense, the Mustangs are anchored by a senior linebacker, Kobe Wilson. You will hear his name mentioned a lot in the broadcast. He is their leading tackler. And up front, SMU has 3 players with at least 6 sacks. So they're all going to be coming from all angles at Drew Aller. He's got to be ready for that. He's got to be mobile. And they also have 3 defensive backs with 3 interceptions each. It's a total balanced effort by this SMU Mustangs defense. So, and look, at least Drew Allard is not prone to turning the ball over, but they got guys back there that can intercept footballs. SMU does not have any wins against any ranked teams, although they did lose to BYU, who was 17th at the time, by 3 points back in September. And the aforementioned 3-point loss at the Horn to ranked Clemson. So they've been able to play with the ranked teams. They haven't beat them. The winner of this game, they'll get Ashton Jeanty, the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy at Boise State. And I'll have my prediction for this game at the end of the podcast during our Pigskin Picks segment that we do here every Friday. I love your thoughts and comments on this, Penn State fans. Let me hear it. What are you thinking about James Franklin? What do you think about Penn State? What do you think about your chances against SMU? Hit me up with the comments on YouTube. All right, programming note. We are going to go live here on Locked On Big Ten here on our YouTube channel. If you're watching right now, this right here. We're going to do it twice. So we're going to do it twice. We're going to do it Friday night and Saturday night. So here's the deal. Friday morning, if you're a subscriber, by the way, hit the subscribe button. It's free. You'll get our regular Friday morning podcast, this one here. And then we'll do another one later on tonight, Friday night, after the Indiana Notre Dame game is done. We're going to go live for immediate reaction on that game from me and from you in the comment section, analysis, opinion, all that stuff. So we're going to do that tonight, Friday night. And then we're going to do it again tomorrow night, Saturday night. We'll do that immediate recap. And we'll talk about the Penn State SMU game that will have been much earlier in the day. And we'll come in right after the Tennessee Ohio State game. So when we go live Saturday night, we're going to talk about 2 games. but we're going to be very excited about that. And we'll have some final thoughts on the Ohio State Tennessee game as well as Indiana versus Notre Dame. We're going to do all that. But live Friday night, this will be about 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 Pacific on both nights. So mark your calendars and join us for that. Those are always exciting. Thousands of people tune in. So it's a lot of fun. In the meantime, as I said, go ahead and subscribe down below if you haven't yet. It's free. That way you can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Also, you see a scroll if you're watching on video. We have a website, talkbig10.com. I'm telling you this for two reasons. Number one, all of our podcasts go there. We archive everything, and we group them by your favorite school or team. Also, man, it is Christmas. I don't know if you have your Christmas shopping done. If you got that Big Ten fan that's just hard to buy for, stocking stuffers, no ideas whatsoever, go to the website. We've got links, and you can buy merchandise from your favorite Big Ten teams. If you are a Penn State, get some Penn State shirts, get an Oregon Ducks, a little stuffed duck. Go ahead, get a pennant for your wall from Ohio State, Indiana coffee mugs, all that, Michigan stuff, all right there. Just click the link, boom, get it on last second purchases for Christmas. That's all on our website, talkbig10.com. Might want to make you aware of that, trying to make your life easier. All right, I still have our final thoughts. I know we spent a lot of time this week talking about Indiana, Notre Dame, and also Tennessee, Ohio State. Got our final thoughts with that and our pigskin picks on those three Big Ten games this weekend. It's all coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Let me tell you about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot? You know, you got a lot of subscriptions. You can't keep track of them all. They'll help you find them. A lot of times you're probably paying twice and don't even know it. That happens a lot. Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down, and it's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps lower bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions or spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So check it out. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on, rocketmoney.com/locked on. Hey, if you want to go to some games, you want to go to playoff games, you want to go to Big Ten basketball games, or do you want to go to a concert or a show in town, comedy show? Get the Game Time app, the Game Time app on your devices, probably your phone. And it is so easy to find tickets and buy tickets. Just a couple of taps, you're good to go. All in prices right away, so no surprises. They get the best deals out there as well. In fact, they have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They have seat views. There's a panoramic view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy before you buy it. Make sure you're happy with all of that. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers that have been with us throughout the year. We took over this channel a year and a half ago. We appreciate you guys. Every day, this thing is growing. Thank you very much. And it's growing because you subscribe. If you haven't, hit the subscription button, subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, Talk Big Ten. That's with the number 10, talkbig10.com, podcasts and merchandise, all right there. All right, couple other Big Ten teams in action. Tonight, the Indiana Hoosiers at Notre Dame. Who would have thought when we created this new playoff system, for better, for worse, that the Indiana Hoosiers would be in the first round of this thing? a program with more losses than any other program in the history of college football. And they're making it to the college football playoffs in the first year of the 12-team format. What Curt Cignetti has done in his first year in this program is nothing short of a miracle for football. He came from a program at James Madison where he won. And, he brought 13 players with him, all good players and in the transfer portal. And they were all players that were overlooked by Power 5 or Power 5 conferences. They were told, hey, you're good, but you're not good enough. That'll put a chip on your shoulder. And so he brought those kids with him who want to win, and they're good. He also added Ohio transfer Curtis Rourke at quarterback, who 2 years ago, before an injury, he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. The guy is smart. Pocket awareness, intelligence. They run RPOs. He always makes the right read, whether to throw or whether to run. And when he throws, he is highly accurate. Just an intelligent, accurate, really great quarterback. He was the most efficient quarterback in the country this year statistically. Cracked the top 10 in the Heisman chase. And while Indiana's offense got all the attention, they were lighting up scoreboards and winning by double digits against everybody. It was their defense that should have stood out. Indiana placed 3 players on the first team all Big Ten defensive team. There's only 11 players on that squad, and they placed 3 of them. 3 of the 11. That's more than Ohio State got. They're known for defense. It's more than Penn State put on there. They're known for defense. Michigan, Iowa, the whole thing. This defense is for real. Notre Dame's about to find out. Notre Dame's about to see some defense. Those players, by the way, on defense, defensive end, Mikhail Kamara, their leading sacker, leading tackler, and linebacker Aiden Fisher, and corner D'Angelo Pons, just a great athlete with a nose for the ball. Watch out for those players tonight. I think that and the fact that on the defense and the fact that the Hoosiers, I think, will have an edge in coaching with Cignetti. I think it's going to bode well for the Hoosiers in this matchup. As for Notre Dame, following their still inexplicable hiccup versus Northern Illinois this year, they've been one of the hottest teams in the country since. And their dual threat quarterback, Riley Leonard, is somebody that the Hoosiers will have to contain in between the tackles. He likes to throw and he likes to run. And I think Notre Dame has a pretty sound secondary. They have some good players back there. And again, depends how Curtis Rourke is able to read the defenses. I think it's going to pose a little bit of a battle for Indiana. The winner of this game gets Georgia. And the Bulldogs are looking more and more every day like they're going to be without starting quarterback Carson Beck, who injured his elbow in the SEC championship game. Georgia's preparing as if they're not going to happen. Meanwhile, the other game, Saturday night, we got Tennessee at Ohio State. All the pressure in the world is on Ryan Day and Ohio State in this game. They want to brush off that Michigan loss, push it aside, and make a deep playoff run. But if they do that, I think some of the painful memories of the Michigan game will fade away a little bit. But if they lose this game to Tennessee and now have back-to-back losses, the loss to the team up north, it's going to be magnified. Back-to-back losses. Things could get a little unraveled in Columbus. And after all, with their history and now their $20 million nil roster here, the Ohio State Buckeyes are expected to win every game. Every game. And if they don't, people get cranky. If they lose 2 in a row, people get really cranky up there. With that $20 million roster, the Buckeyes are the more talented team in this game on Saturday night. And they're at home. Losing's not an option for them. Quarterback Will Howard been pretty steady all season, and he's going to be the one that needs to lead and be steady and have the steady hand on Saturday night. I'm telling you, they're still thinking about Michigan. We talked about this yesterday in yesterday's podcast. They need to forget about that and focus like a laser on Tennessee. The winner of this game gets the number 1 undefeated Oregon Ducks in the next round. For the Buckeyes, it could be a rematch, a Big Ten rematch of the game they lost by 1 point in Autzen Stadium back in October. But Tennessee isn't just going to lay down. They come battle-tested from the SEC. This isn't their first rodeo in front of 100,000 hostile fans on the road for a nighttime primetime game on national TV. They'll be ready. They'll be ready for this. So, although I hear in both cases with the Notre Dame game and this Tennessee Ohio State, I hear the visitors are buying a lot of tickets through secondary sources. They're going to see some red. in that crowd at Notre Dame for the Hoosiers, and you're going to see some orange for the Vols fans that are coming to Columbus to watch this game. That'll be unusual. That's the great part of doing these college football playoffs on campus at home stadiums. We really haven't ever been able to do this before. Much smaller playoff or bowl games at neutral sites. So this is a whole new deal. We'll check in on the forecast on all of these locations with our Pigskin Picks in just a minute. Real quick, I want to get you the men's basketball schedule is full blown here. They're jamming in games this weekend before, being off for Christmas and all that. On Saturday, Princeton is at Rutgers. That is in the Never Forget Tribute Classic at noon on FS1. Penn State is at Drexel at noon Eastern. Chattanooga is at Indiana at noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Syracuse is at Maryland. That's the Gotham Classic. That's at 12 o'clock. I'm sorry, or is that 1:30? I think that's 1:30 on ESPN. Florida Atlantic against 20th ranked Michigan State, 2 o'clock Eastern on FS1. Fairleigh Dickinson, remember them? They were a 16 seed in March Madness, and they knocked off number 1 seed Purdue. Never been done like that. Well, second time's ever been done. They're at Minnesota, 2 o'clock, Big Ten Network. UCLA, ranked 18th in the country, taking on North Carolina. Got a little blue blood battle there. It's the CBS Sports Classic, 3 o'clock on CBS. DePaul's at Northwestern, 4 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. 16th ranked Purdue is taking on number 2 Auburn. Man, Auburn's tough. That is a 4:30 Eastern game on ESPN, and Ohio State is at number 4 Kentucky. Another Jersey game, 5:30 CBS Sports Classic there. Number 10 Oregon is at Stanford, 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. That's the San Jose tip-off. And then a few games on Sunday, Purdue Fort Wayne at number 24 Michigan, 1 o'clock on Big Ten Plus, Illinois at Missouri at 1 o'clock on ESPN, and Detroit Mercy is at Wisconsin for a 2 o'clock tip on the Big Ten Network. Southern at USC, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network. And finally, Nebraska taking on Murray State, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, I think 3 o'clock Hawaiian time. My time zones are out. That's the Diamond Head Classic. Good for them. Good for them. All right, that's the hoop schedule. Back to football. We got our Pigskin Picks and the weather forecast for those games that could be a factor in these games coming up in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. It's that time of year. College football playoff. It's back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, Saturday. Start with a college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into the first matchup. Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, it's time now for our Pigskin Picks, the 3 college football games that involve Big Ten teams. We'll put it here on our full screen so you can take a look at that. If you're on audio only, we'll describe what is on the board. I need to get rid of that. Okay, here we go. Friday night, Indiana at Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are 7-point favorites. The over-under at 52.5. I will stick with what I say. Oh, I'll give you the weather forecast because that may play into your pick if you're playing along. This is at 8 o'clock tip-off, 8 o'clock Eastern. It'll be partly cloudy, 28 degrees at kickoff, 10% of some precip, light wind. Going to be cold. But both these teams can play in the cold. And we saw Indiana beat Purdue 66-0 in the snow. By the way, Notre Dame beat Purdue 66-7, common opponent. Just throwing that out there. Notre Dame, though, the 7-point favorite, the over-under 52.5. I will stick to what I've said all week. This game is going to be tied at 28 with 4 minutes to go. And whoever can play and execute in the last 4 minutes on a long, cold night will be victorious because it will be that close. Give me Indiana. Certainly Notre Dame will not beat them by more than 7. Indiana very well may win this game. And if it's going to be 28-28 in the fourth quarter, regardless of who wins, got to take the over. That's quick math, right? 52.5. All right, SMU at Penn State, Saturday, noon. Partly cloudy, 25 degrees, 12-mile-an-hour wind. That's going to feel like, in the teens, wind chill. Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite. The over-under 53.5. I do think this is a high-scoring game. I think both offenses get going, and I think ultimately this could be close for a half, and maybe close even into the third quarter, but I think Penn State will pull away, maybe get a second score lead, 10-point lead. I think they cover. And then Tennessee at Ohio State. This one's tricky. By the way, 8 p.m. Saturday night, 25 degrees, partly cloudy, 10% of some light snow, light wind, over under 45.5. Vegas thinks it's going to be a lower scoring game. If it's going to be a lower scoring game, I don't know about this 7.5-point spread. I think it's a closer game than that. I think Ohio State will win by somewhere between 3 and 6 points. And give me the under. Give me the under 45.5. Low scoring game. There you go. Defensive battle. All right. Those are our pigskin picks. Winding this thing down this week. And let me know what you think. Maybe you have a different idea on the picks. Many ways for you to interact with this podcast. Don't forget there's Twitter at Talk Big Ten. There you go. And also comments on YouTube. Whether we're on the air or not, throw in the comments. Kind of helps us out, actually. And back and forth. Let's get some trash talking going. Would love it. And our website, talkbig10.com, where all of our podcasts go. And you can get merchandise in time for Christmas from your favorite schools in the Big Ten. Get somebody a stocking stuffer. Do some shopping. One last reminder, going live tonight, Friday night, probably around 11:30 after the Indiana-Notre Dame game, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. And we're going to do it again tomorrow night, Saturday night, right after the Tennessee-Ohio State game. Same thing, probably around 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. And we'll talk about both games from Saturday on Saturday night, including the noon game with Penn State and SMU. Join us for all that. Your comments are always welcome on that. We do a lot of back and forth. You'll have my immediate reaction and analysis as well. And we'll have a look ahead at what's next. Hopefully these Big Ten teams win, and we'll have matchups in the next round. We'll kind of take a peek ahead around the corner on all that. Tell your friends about us that we're out here each and every day. I know you know a Big Ten friend or family member that would be interested in this podcast. Subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. You get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Hopefully we'll see you later tonight with our live podcast. All right. Enjoy the games. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Shemon for Locked On Big Ten. Talk to you next time.